Hello, welcome to Stagehand Shit, the show where we talk about things I learned while being a stagehand. College. I get asked about this so many times. It's like half of my questions are about where should I go to school, what do I do, yada. The other half is like how do I get on tour, yada. We're gonna address the college side of things today. So should you go to college for theater? Obviously this is all from my own personal opinion, experience, life, everything. To start, I'm going to give you guys a little background on why I went to school and what I kind of have done ever since thereafter. So I grew up in a smaller town in Wisconsin called De Pere, Wisconsin, just outside of Green Bay though, so it still wasn't like the smallest of small places. Went to West Pere High School, did a lot with community theater, and I was like, you know what, I want to be an actor. Then somewhere along the line, I ended up applying to University of Minnesota Twin Cities to be a political science major. That was my dream. I wanted to go there so bad. Kind of lost faith for myself in the theater industry. Was like, I'm just gonna go to school for politics or like music education, switch it up halfway through, whatever. Then my life kind of fell apart. Didn't have any co-signers, couldn't get any loans. Couldn't do anything besides FAFSA, eliminated U of M. Dream school at the time. Settled for St. Albert College because it was like down the street, and I had a ton of scholarships because I went to West Pere High School, which is like right next door. So I was like, well, if I'm gonna go to a college I hate, I'm just gonna go for something I love. So I chose to major in interdisciplinary arts, which is like a combination of music, theater, and art. Now, I've been doing theater at that college since I was like 10 years old. I knew the professors I was gonna have on a personal level. They knew me since before I was even old enough to drive a car. So I feel like there was definitely a different kind of like bond that was between me and my professors. 2 months before college started, I kind of hit like a rock bottom, and I walked out. Not gonna talk about the why because that's nobody's business. But I had nothing. I had nowhere to live. I was couch surfing. I was starting from the ground up. So I go to my university. I'm like legally declared homeless. I get a ton of grants and financial aid and assistance with going to school. So now I kind of feel stuck. It took me too much paperwork to get to where I was, and to transfer out to go to a different school for a different reason was out of the question with how much I had to work. I had 3 jobs in the area. I was well established in the theater community. It didn't feel like it made sense for me to leave if I was going to go to school for theater. This was 2021. In my mind, I was like still more into acting and was more of an actor than any kind of technician whatsoever. Once I started college, I decided to start working at the shop at my school because I knew the technical director. I did like 2 years of summer theater with him in high school, and I felt comfortable with what I could do there. One day during a work meeting, he brings up that Wicked is going to be having a loadout at the Fox GSPAC, and the rate is $14 an hour. I was making $7.25 at this theater in 2021, and $14 an hour sounded like a dream to me because my other job as a cake decorator, I only made like 11. Plus Wicked was like such a fundamental show for me growing up, so I was like, it's not even about the pay. Like, I'm gonna, of course, like, do some union work. Had never worked with the union before, had no really interest in being a stagehand full-time or any of that kind of stuff. Went to this gig and it was overwhelming. I hated it. It was too much. It was like too like overstimulating. It was just like but the pay was really good, and I already said I would be doing Trans-Siberian Orchestra the next week. And that's really how I fell into it. I genuinely did not have enough to pay to go to school and survive, and I just needed a way to be able to afford to live life. Often I would get up at 4 a.m. I would go work at the bakery from like 5 to 11 a.m., go do my classes, go to school, yada yada, work sometimes at the theater at my college from like 6 to 10 or whenever, and then go do a loadout sometimes. I'd be working. I barely slept. If I got more than 4 hours of sleep a night in college, it was a miracle. Got to the point where I realized if I drank alcohol before I went to sleep, it felt like I was sleeping longer than 4 hours. By the end of my first semester, I knew it was a problem, and I was like, I need to do something about it. So second semester, I cut myself down from 18 credits to 13 credits, deleted all forms of social media from my phone, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to decrease the workload. Like, yes, I need to make money, but I think it's more beneficial for me to cut back on other things in my life and just not work as much. And that's kind of around the time when I started to realize that I was actually liking doing technical theater. When I started working with the union, it was a time when there were maybe 4 other women my age, or like people my age, and we all just happened to be women. And when I worked with those guys my first and second semester of college, I started to feel like people actually had faith in what I could do in the theater community and had hope for my future. But I knew eventually there was gonna come a point where I would have to choose to get rid of one of my jobs to take this a lot more seriously. So April of 2022, I got rid of my job as a cake decorator, even though it was my only form of stable income where I made a constant like $300 or so a week. I was scared and terrified. I didn't think I could survive on the small amount I would make from both theater jobs. But you know, it worked out. And things just kept working out. Like for me getting housing and just barely making the amount of grants that I needed to go to school, and the work thing, like for some reason, everything just always kept working out in these very intense, dramatic situations. So around that time, I also kind of lost the fear of really being able to lose it all, because I knew what it was like to hit rock bottom, and I was like, you know what, it really can't get worse than what I've already experienced. You know, why don't I take another risk? Worst comes to worst, I just get a random $10 an hour job in town. So my college didn't really have any technical theater classes, but they did have like positions open on like the plays that we would do. I never did that. I was like, if I can make money doing this, I don't want to waste my hard energy doing it for like a class. I lied. I did one class actually for a show, and I was a master carpenter, and I remember spending 32 hours in a shop building a goddamn throne. But other than that, I auditioned for every single show. I wanted to be a director, actually. That was one of my big goals. And if I'm being completely honest, I would rather take a directorial job, or like even sometimes an acting job, over certain technician jobs. The drama. But like other things, I hit a point where I was like, you know what, I just need to move with what's going right now, and it seems like my technical career is moving right now. So I kind of stopped after college. After working with the IA for around a year at this point, I started my process in becoming a member, yada yada, and I caught the bug for wanting to go on tour. So finishing college at this point was like aggravating for me, because I was like getting tour opportunities actually at this point, but I had to turn them down because everyone told me I needed my bachelor's degree to do things in life. So I was in some of these classes relearning some things from these professors that I've heard for the past, you know, like 5 or 6 years in my life, just sitting there like I could be doing something, I could be doing what I love, but I said no when I'm here. It was hard. It was really hard, especially because I saw the money that was involved with touring, which to me at the time was amazing. I saw the fact that I didn't need to have housing either, and that was perfect. Touring was like the dream world for me. One day I go to my advisor's office and I say, hey, I'm graduating by December of 2023 or I'm dropping out, because I am not going to keep saying no to all these offers that are getting put my way. This was around November of 2022 when I was only like a year and a half through college. I figured out the logistics, and I was like, I can graduate in 2.5 years if you let me and you actually like approve of all the classes that I'm going to take. And she did. She trusted me. I think my professors were starting to hate me at this point because of how much I just was not paying attention in their classes, and how much I was paying attention more to like the career that I was going to be having after the fact. I was also a chronic smartass. And about 1 or 2 months later, my stuff starts to take off on social media. Like by the time I graduated college in December of 2023, I had a combined 30 million views between Instagram and TikTok. I had like 30,000 followers, which for like the technical theater community, because all of my content was mostly technical theater, it was a lot. It was enough that every single time I went to work my senior year of college, somebody recognized me from like a tour. And honestly, as overwhelming as it was, it also did give me a lot of hope. Week after I graduated in December, I went on tour with Disney on Ice for 3 months. And I'm very glad I did. Lots of people shit on that company at the time, and I mean, I can understand why. But for a 21-year-old who was just getting into touring, it was not too bad of a deal in my eyes. I wouldn't do it again though. March through August of 2024, I kind of traveled around a bit. I went back to Alaska, which I lived in the previous summer. Then I made the big move to New York, September of 2024. Did a lot of work here between off-Broadway, Broadway, fashion, a bunch of different jobs. Went on tour again in March, not gonna say the company, but walked off that show. Had a little fun this summer, traveling around. And now it's August 2025. I'm getting ready to move again. Surprise, shawty. It's been a crazy 4 years, but we are just getting started. Oh, college.